Welcome everyone to MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 17. It's called Playing God. So spoilers for the episode, as always. This one is about a young Trill who's going through kind of the apprenticeship program, or whatever they call it, where basically they're here to visit Dax, and Dax is going to mentor them, keep an eye on them, and maybe give a report, a recommendation, whether or not this is a good potential host for a future symbiosis, relationship. Because as this character Arjun even points out early on, only a third of Trills, or 30% may have been the figure he used, will ever get to actually form a bond, because there's only so many parasites, and maybe that's not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Symbiotes.
Yeah, symbiotes to go around. So that's what the premise of the episode is. There's also kind of a B plot that merges into it at a certain point, but we'll get into that in a bit. How did you feel about playing God?
I kind of mostly really liked the side that was dealing with the Trill stuff. The other plot I was not down on, but less into.
I think this has got a weird structure, this episode. I think I like bits of both plots. I just don't know if they play wonderfully well together. I guess is what I would say. Because it felt like the first half of the episode, it was almost entirely all Dax and Arjun and that relationship, and this idea of, like, is this young guy, like, suitable as a host? And obviously Dax has opinions on why he isn't, for the most part, in that first half of the episode, and that's what most of the runtime is, barring a little funny subplot about chasing these alien rats through the vents or whatever,
and some Quark scenes.
Yeah, and a couple of Quark scenes, and those are fun, and that, and it was fine. But it's kind of weird to me how this episode pivots, where something's introduced during the plot that then turns into what feels like a very serious, like, subplot that takes over the episode. And I couldn't help but feel like the ideas in that plot are so big and such a good idea for debate and what to do about it, that the fact that it's kind of shoehorned into just, like, half of an episode here makes it feel very rushed and not as satisfying as it should be.
I agree, and it's why I say I wasn't so into it, because conceptually I very much am. But in this episode, as a B plot, not so much. I think it needed to be an A plot of a different episode.
Yeah, because this plot is basically on a runabout. Dax and this Arjun character, they're just going through the wormhole, and they happen to pick up something that I guess attaches to the ship, right? They call it, I think she refers to it as, like, cosmic seaweed or something. And to be fair, she's just saying that because she doesn't know what else to call it. And it turns out, as they realize it starts to expand over the night, that it's actually maybe the early stages of a new universe of some kind that is forming, and it's going to keep expanding, and then maybe one day consume the entire universe and replace it. So it kind of needs to go back wherever it came from, or they're going to have to, like, kill it. However, just as they're about to kill it, and they're thinking of ways to destroy it because it'll kill everyone else if they don't, they really reach the predicament of Starfleet, which is that, oh wait, we're detecting possible signs of life in there, relative to whatever. And, like, this is the part of the episode where I'm like, okay, there's a really cool plot here, because immediately Kira's like, well, so what? Like, we kill stuff.
It's them, yeah.
Well, not even that. Before you even get to the us or them part of it, like, the way she's looking at it is, oh, these are, like, this is like, microbes in a petri dish. Like, is it that big a deal to kill them, especially if they're eventually going to kill all of us? And then the others explain, well, no, to them, like, relatively speaking, they might have been evolving, they might be intelligent already, and they're just not aware that they're inside another universe, sort of on the outside of their universe. So, like, this might be intelligent life, and therefore we cannot just kill it. We cannot just stomp on them and accept that as a unless we absolutely have no other choice. And Kira's, like, gung-ho about it, and she makes this passionate speech about us or them, and then Sisko says, I'll have to make my choice within the hour. And the tone of which he says that, I'll have to make my choice within the hour, where he's now wrestling with this idea that he may have to give an order that kills a future universe, and all the weight that comes with that to save his own. And he even compares that to his, his experience fighting the Borg and his backstory. And I'm like, damn, there's a good episode here. There's a good episode about the ethics of but what to do with this potential future universe that might be brimming with life if it gets a chance to actually evolve.
It feels like I hate to say this, like, but it feels like a leftover plot from TNG. This feels like a Picard dilemma.
I can see it. I can see it. Yeah, yeah. It feels it's because it's this, and I think maybe the other thing that makes it feel rushed to me, because this scene's very good and it bringing these ideas forward. Although this was definitely the scene where I felt like, oh, we've kind of left the other plot in the wind. Like I feel like the Arjun stuff with Dax is completely taking a back seat now because this seems way more important and interesting and urgent, as it should, given the context of what it is. But when it kind of like pivots back round to them and they're the ones piloting a runabout trying to get it to like back to where it came from, is that seen as the the right choice to make. When it pivots back round to that, I felt like the solution I mean, I know they say it's hard and they say there's all these risks and like, oh, like if we encounter one of these big things in the wormhole, it might like it blow up and take out the wormhole and us with it and everything. It just feels really too simple of a solution. Doesn't feel like something that they've had to struggle to get to this result.
It wasn't a very earned thing. It's like, yeah, they're telling us it's really hard, but you don't believe it for any minute. Like it doesn't feel like there's any real stakes to it.
For such a big idea, which is genuinely quite good, it just feels too easy to solve. And I think that left me feeling a little bit more down on the episode at the end, because that's where I left it feeling, that's kind of the last impression it made.
No, that's fair. Which is a shame, because I think the stuff that it was doing with Dax as a mentor and like her future, as a species, like her responsibilities of like nurturing the next generation. I think there's a lot going on in that first half of the episode that's really good. And then it kind of just pivots away from it. And it's not that it's gone completely, but it takes such a backseat that I feel like it loses some of its impact by the end.
Yeah, because I mean, if nothing else, right early on, you realize, oh, this is going to be a very Dax-focused episode. She's not had one in a while, so it felt kind of nice to have her sort of, and we kind of challenge what she's supposed to be by having this young character who's got this very kind of by-the-book definition of what a Trill's supposed to be, particularly once they've been merged with the symbiote. And this idea that he's here to prove himself. He thinks she's going to be tough and he's going to have to impress her. And the idea that he's constantly just sort of judging her because he keeps seeing her, she's in the gambling place at Quark's doing stuff that he doesn't approve of, that he thinks, oh wait, how could she get approved to be merged with someone? She's kind of like, a scoundrel or something. Oh, she's got, men leaving her apartment. She's having sex with aliens and she's very casual about it. And that was a funny little scene, but again, he's kind of judging her. He's judging that she's drinks. He's judging that she's doing this or that she wants to use first names, that kind of thing. Like, he's clearly very like, oh, I need to be appropriate. And she points out later that, you're very much like you understand all the tests that you're going to have to go through and you excel at all them. Like, you apply yourself to the tests, but you have no skills to actually kind of like, I mean, because ultimately the question that he flounders at is when she's like, oh, so what are your hopes and dreams and passions? What do you hope to do once you become, a connected Trill? What's the idea at that point? And he's like, well, my dad wanted me to be a Trill. I guess I'll maybe join Starfleet, I think. And he's like, there's no sense of direction, no sense of this is his passion, this is what he really wants. It's just kind of like, this is what he's been told success is supposed to be, so he's gunning for success, the concept of success, not actually wanting all the things that are in that package, if you will.
Yeah, it's very like reliable. There's a lot of like in terms of like education, especially like now, in our areas where it's like, okay, you're pushed towards. You go through education, you go to higher education, you go to university. And it's just like, that's what everyone is pushed to do. And then, you get to, it's like, okay, what do you actually want to do? It's like, I go to university because you go to university. That's what you're meant to do. And it feels very much like that's what he's like here. It's just like, you're just still in the school path. Despite them being the fully functioning adult member of society, they're still very much just in that school path.
Yeah, and you kind of like almost feel a little bit sorry for him because it's not really his fault that he doesn't have this extra like motivation or passion yet. Because again, that's something you do also feel in the real world is like you're told, well, what do you want to do with your life? You ask that maybe when you're 16, again when you're 18, again when you're 20, and the truth is that it's like almost every time you might be like, I don't really know, to be honest. Like nothing's really calling to me. It's not that weird to feel that way. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you want to be good at any particular field, you need to get in right now and start working your way up, or you've lost too much time and you're destined for nothing forever. And that's kind of, I think those frustrations, I think, are relatable, even though he himself does obviously, I won't say he's unlikable, but he definitely, obviously, because he's butting heads with Dax basically with every interaction they have for the first half of the episode. It's very easy to kind of be more in her easygoing side as far as like, liking the characters. But of course, when he does blow up at her and he's finally honest, I'll give the episode this credit. I think this idea that she's trying to prod him to be honest and like have this outburst, when he finally does have it, you're not annoyed that he's finally saying it. You actually kind of, I think, agree with her that, oh, he's finally said what he's thinking, even though, I think he's a bit judgmental for thinking these things, but he's finally saying what he actually feels. So you at least appreciate that she's kind of finally got him to the point that he needs to get at, because he's been kind of sugarcoating everything and, presenting what he thinks is supposed to be presented to her.
Yeah, and it's like there's the bit where it's the next morning after the question of what do you want to do, and he's like, oh yeah, I just wanted to clarify about last night. And she's like, no, you don't. You're bullshitting me. You're telling me exactly what I want to hear, what you think I want to hear. And it again, is exactly, and it's like she points out, she's only really a few years older than him. She's not been doing this for that long. It's not like she's got it all figured out. Not really.
Yeah.
And it's very much just like that stark difference of just like, no, you've just got to get over that line, and that's what she's trying to push here.
Yeah, and it feels like he might be kind of at that point at the end, and a big thing for her is that she doesn't want to be a hard ass, because Dax, the previous versions anyway, Curzon Dax, was known for being like a hard ass. Like people were scared to go and like be his apprentice, and she noticed that she herself, like her host, was sent to him as an apprentice, and she went home crying like every night because she hated being around him. But ultimately when she did get accepted, it motivated her to kind of still push herself. So the council, or whatever the body is that decides who gets a host or who gets to be a host, still picked her. And she talks about how, Curzon probably saw the irony in like her being the one to take Dax, like her being the one to actually carry on that legacy. So because the episode ends on a little moment where she says goodbye to him after the whole crisis has been averted, and he's like, I think I know what I need to do now, and he leaves, and it's like a happy goodbye, and she just turns around and says, I'm not Curzon Dax. Like it's almost like she was trying to prove to herself she didn't have to do it the same way that he did throughout the episode.
And yeah, she made a point of basically actively saying that to Sisko quite early on. Be like, I'm not going to do that. I'm different. And she mostly was, but I still think that the prodding them into the outburst, like, kind of forcing them into that, it sounds in keeping with, a little bit kind of, sure, but it sounds in keeping with the spirit of what came before.
I guess it goes with the idea that the Trills, retain all of these previous like hosts that they've had. So a little bit still in there, but it can be molded to like fit the new host in a better way where, okay, you get a little bit of that flavor to like get them where they need to go. But she's maybe like, I feel like Arjun has left her a lot more understanding of what he's learned than she ever did when she initially left Curzon back in the day.
That's fair, yeah. I did think it was quite funny though, the way he kept being like, if I get a bad recommendation, that's it. I never get a thing. But then she got a bad recommendation from Curzon, like originally. So it's like, okay, it's clearly not like the only determining factor.
Yeah. He clearly, again, that's what he's been told. That's what he's read in a book, that you have to get a good recommendation from your apprenticeships or whatever, and that sets you on the path. And if you don't get them, that's it. Like off to the mines with you or whatever they do.
Whatever these Trill do.
Yeah. Wherever the non-symbiote Trill do. But, I think it is nice to explore this stuff. It's nice to get a little bit more of Dax's character. I think the montage, or it's not even a montage, but just the little scenes we get back to back of her like being judged by Arjun, where she's, you know, gambling or wrestling or you know, having a guy in her apartment when she wakes up. Like all that stuff is like, oh, I feel like we're getting to know Dax a lot better than we maybe have up until this point. Like we've had little allusions, she has these little comments, and even, you know, Bashir at the start of the episode, we get introduced to this new character with Bashir talking to him, and he's not really a big part of the episode, but he's just kind of like getting off the transport with him and like, oh, hey, you're here to see Dax, I know Dax. And even he has like a little line or two where he's like, oh, you don't know Dax, and kind of like gives like a little eye kind of thing. And it's just this idea that like they've maybe been teasing certain things about her that they're only just kind of really showing a bit more now. Or at the very least, we never had as much context for who she was previously to get like how different or how more free-spirited this version of Dax is. Because it is interesting watching that one scene she has with Cisco and they're playing chess, and like she's basically just saying what she's going through with Arjun and her concerns, and Cisco can recognize the look on her face that, hey, you've got doubts about this guy, I can see you're concerned, and he gets her talking about it. Like, I think it's very interesting to watch that scene and just see how different Dax is with Cisco versus everyone else in this episode. You know, like, I mean, they're literally having dinner at one point, and there's like a Klingon with an accordion or an accordion-like device, and like he's putting his arm around Dax and making jokes about, you know, them being a couple and whatnot. And it's like, damn, she's like made friends with everyone on this station. Like she is, you know, it seems so different to the expectations that Arjun has, but I feel like because we see it through his eyes, we get a sense of how unique this even probably is to like maybe what other Trills expect or how they act.
Maybe. You always got the sense that even Curzon Dax was a bit of an outsider, but a rebel, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what the right word is.
In a different way, perhaps, but yeah.
Yes. But again, then that goes back to why her relationship with Cisco is still very different to everyone else, because he knew Curzon Dax and was friends with that version as well. So that relationship is fundamentally different to the one that she has with everyone else on this show right now.
Yeah. I like that part of it. Her having a different demeanor and relationship with Cisco sells the idea of the Trill, probably more than anything else in the show. Yeah. Because it just sort of clarifies that, kind of like in that same way where you slip into your like accent more when you're talking to people who have a thick accent that's similar to yours, where you realize you slip back into saying more thick, you know, slang things.
Like the Trill symbiote leans back into more of the Curzon Dax personality traits a little bit more with Cisco than around everyone else.
Yeah, so I think them exploring those ideas are solid. It just, you know, obviously the episode just kind of stops focusing on that as much, like, you know, because it goes down the path where when he's feeling down and he thinks he's flunked out, he goes to Quark's and just keeps drinking, and Quark gives him some advice, and we learn rule of acquisition 112.
Most important rule, perhaps.
I wish I'd be noting these down, but number 112 is never sleep with the boss's sister, which, am I to assume that there's like 111's like don't sleep with the boss's daughter, 110 don't sleep with the boss's mom? Like surely there's like a lot of these.
There must be yeah. But again, it just plays into the fact that he's making all these rules up as he goes.
Yes.
Based off of his own personal experiences. And like we know that's not entirely true because we've seen other Ferengi quote rules. But can you imagine if they all have their own rules? They're all completely different.
It was just the way, I mean, he always says them dead seriously, but this one cracked me up in particular. A couple other little things. There's a scene where Quark comes with one of these big dead alien rat things and complains, and O'Brien accidentally like blasts him with a sonic device, which it was an amusing little scene for what it was. Just Quark
seemingly temporarily deafens him for a minute, and then no one ever addresses it. Yeah.
I got a little chuckle though, because Kira's in that scene to begin with. And he's like, hey, you're the landlords here, you need to deal with this vermin, or I'll... And she's like, leave? You're going to threaten to leave? Please do. I would love for you to leave, Quark. And she storms out of the scene, and then Quark turns to O'Brien as if they're buddies and goes, that woman, she's still can't deny her love for me, or something like that. He basically says,
she's still trying to hide it.
Yeah, she's just feisty for me. And O'Brien just gives a chuckle. Like, he obviously knows it's bullshit, but how can he not laugh at it? How can he not laugh at Quark thinking that?
Yeah. I think the theory is that at this point I don't know if Quark believes it or not.
I mean, I don't think
honestly don't know.
I didn't think he did the first time he made a comment like this, but the more he keeps doing it, the more I hope that he truly believes it.
That's it. I'm the same where I'm like, maybe he does, but maybe he knows he's self-aware and he's playing into the bit.
Yeah.
Like, playing it up for O'Brien, be like, hey, buddy, yeah, funny one. I have no idea anymore.
I need an episode, because this is something that the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer would do, of course, at times, where there'd be an episode with like a magic spell or something. I need an episode where for some reason Kira, like, you know, temporarily falls in love with Quark. I need that plot.
Mm-hmm. And Quark to realize he hates it.
Yes. Or maybe not. Maybe he just loves it. Maybe when she snaps out of it, whenever they fix whatever's causing her character like behavior to change, like she wakes up and she's like feeding him grapes or something, and she's like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah,
it's fun to be had. Also, Cisco, son Jake's got a girlfriend now, seemingly.
Yeah, that's just kind of thrown. Like, it's so weird because it's just thrown in as this comment right as Cisco's in that hour break of trying to decide what the hell he's gonna do.
Yeah, it was so, because like I thought he was going home to see Jake, and I thought, okay, right, so he's going to have a moment here where this is going to be like him saying, well, it's a tough choice, but obviously I need to save everyone, including my son, so I need to, you know, do what needs to be done, kind of thing. And it just turns into a scene where Jake's like, hey, by the way, well, at first he thinks O'Brien told Cisco, but that's not exactly what happened, obviously. But he reveals that he likes this girl, and he's been tutoring her, and he wants to invite her for dinner. And yes, by the end of the scene, I was thinking, that was like a really weird scene to just throw in here. It didn't feel like it fit into anything else that was going on.
Yeah, like at first, I was like, okay, this is going to play into it. But by the end, it's just like, not tonight, not dinner tonight, because he has bigger things to worry about.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if maybe it's part of something that's going to like play off over multiple episodes of him not having the time for Jake.
Oh yeah, maybe. I'd be fine with that. I just think it might have been like, even if it's just like I mean, that'd be a good reason to sort of say why it's in this weird moment of the episode, because it's this idea that every time he needs his dad's got more important things to be doing, and like if that's what they're doing, then I guess that kind of makes sense. But even if it's like they're just going to like set up a couple of things so that in a few episodes time, when we do finally get a scene or an episode that revolves around, oh hey dad, here's the girlfriend, blah blah, I'd be okay with that. I just think the scene should have been like maybe in the first chunk of the episode before things got serious, you know, where they could do it, because you can do a little casual like just slice of life scene early on if you just want to set up a little seed for later. But it felt like it's such a pivotal point of the episode where I'm like, why are we stopping for such a normal, like, mundane scene, you know?
If it were me, I would have set up the idea that he has the girlfriend and bringing her over for dinner earlier in the episode, and then Cisco's like, we're gonna have to cancel plans for tonight.
Yeah, that could have worked.
I feel like that would have still, if I'm even remotely right, as it is setting up that like long-term thing, that still would have played that off of, okay, there are more important things than his son, and Jake feeling that later on. But wouldn't have just felt so kind of just shoehorning and random in this like one scene, that this really pivotal point of Cisco's psyche for this episode? Yeah. It stuck out at the moment, but even more in hindsight now that I'm looking back at the episode, it feels like, oh yeah. Because you expected it to at least do something with it, and it just doesn't. I think this was also the part of the episode where I was like, oh, we're really like leaving the Dax and Arjun plot, because like it's one thing for like, because at least the cosmic thing that turns out to be a universe that's growing at least came out of their plot to begin with. But the fact that we then followed one of the other main characters back to their own home life felt weird, because, you know, typically once the episode's decided on which characters we're following, you know, the A plot and the B plot, we tend not to, you know, do a lot of following the other ones into their own scenes as much, right? It tends to all be through the lens of whatever the A plot and B plot main characters are. Yeah. So it just felt a little bit strange in that respect. It's not a big deal, but it stuck out a little bit. It did stick out. It was very noticeable, even as watching it, like, first time, like, why are we doing this right now? And there was no answer. Not really. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of strange, especially since, you know, it feels like it's taken away from the plot we started with. It feels like it's taken away a little bit from the universe plot that was good on paper, just obviously was a bit rushed. Yeah. And I don't feel like it added too much to Cisco's headspace during that kind of critical moment for him.
No, because I was expecting a scene where he doesn't tell Jake what's going on. I don't think he would tell Jake, but just this idea that he has a quiet moment with him, and you know, like the idea that maybe it starts kind of similar where Jake kind of brings up the girlfriend, but instead of getting mad, or maybe he starts to get mad like he did, but then kind of calms down, just says, you know what, actually tell me about her, and then we just cut away. This idea that he's like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy my son telling me about this new, you know, part of his life that's you know, evolving because he's getting older, he's growing up, he's starting new things, blah blah blah. Like that would have at least made it feel like, oh, he's going to enjoy his hour before he has to go and make a really serious decision, perhaps. Like that could have worked, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, a weird choice.
Yeah, a little bit strange. But hey, hey, the dead alien rat thing looked all right. It was a cool prop.
Yeah, it was.
They had one. They used it for two different rats. I'm pretty sure it was the same prop though, which I don't blame them for. But I just
why make a second one?
Yeah, I just got a chuckle though when they like, when Quark brought in the second one. I went, that's just the same one that you held up the previous scene. I'm sure of it, but it's fine. That's fine. But yeah, it's all right. Yeah. So okay overall, I guess what we're really saying here.
Frustratingly okay, because I thought it could have been a great episode with the Dax stuff, or it could have been a great episode with the other stuff as a whole episode on its own, but ultimately kind of jeopardizes both.
Yeah, I wonder if like they had this idea for the Dax story with Arjun, and they obviously knew it wouldn't be a full episode's worth, that it had to be saddled with a second plot, a B plot, or that should have been the B plot to the A plot, whatever it was. And I just wonder if like you said, if it's just left over from Next Gen that they've pulled out of a bin somewhere, I wonder if it just wasn't the right plot to pair it with, perhaps. Yeah. Like
I thought like they were maybe trying to do this juxtaposition of like high stakes, low stakes.
Because
like a universe versus one person. But
didn't
really play off.
But I was convinced in the first half of the episode that the B plot was the comedy plot. It was the rats, but the alien rats actually just stopped. Being a thing. Because I thought the alien rats were going to end up being the solution to the thing growing. Before we knew it was a universe, I thought somehow the alien rats were going to eat it or something, and that was going to be the resolution.
Or maybe one of O'Brien's like things that he was trying to get rid of the rats would end up being useful. Yeah.
But it never mattered. The alien rats never mattered to anything in the back half of the episode.
Which would have been fine if that was the only B plot.
Oh, yeah. If that was just like a recurring comedy plot, and then all you need is a couple of scenes where, oh, hey, we finally caught the last rat, and that you have that scene where that happens.
Yeah.
Where O'Brien like dangles it in front of Quark's face and is like, see, I got it. And Quark's like, get out of my establishment or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like these are the normal things that it probably should have done and would have been a better episode for it.
Yes, and save the universe growing plot that might consume ours if we don't do something about it. Save that for its own meal. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is playing God. Obviously, we'll have Next Generation next time, but when we come back to Deep Space Nine, we'll be looking at an episode called Profit and Loss. Oh, I wonder what character this is going to revolve around. Here's the description.
Episode of the season.
On IMDb. A Cardassian woman named Natima Lang, who was once the flame of Quarks, visits the station under dubious circumstances. So Quark's ex-girlfriend, who's a Cardassian.
I love this episode already.
I'm definitely interested. Anything that does more Quark stuff, I'm usually happy about. Also, I mean, I'm sure we stopped making jokes about Cardassians and, you know, the famous people, the Cardassians, a while ago. But just hearing Quark's ex-girlfriend, a Cardassian, is really funny as a sentence. So,
yeah.
Anyway. There you go. That's what's next time on Deep Space Nine. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Helps out a bunch if you do. And of course, you can support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV or via YouTube membership if you prefer that. But that helps keep all the reviews coming. So thank you very much once again for joining. We do appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And oh god, I don't have anything for the Odo Puddle outro line on this one. Odo
Oda was a universe all along.
He could reign on the universe. He could, become. But can he? Does he have to stay connected? I think maybe he has to stay connected now that I'm thinking about it. Like, if you get him in his bucket, can you pour him into another bucket, or like split him into 2 buckets? Is that okay, or is that going to?
Probably not. But I mean, he could be a cloud, and like you could have raindrops. They just have to stay connected.
So it's like a crappy.
Actually, no.
It's like the rain in a PS1 game where it's just continuous lines going down because they all have to be connected.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. End of review.